Hi, I'm Mark Sherry. I'm the director of the New Music Alliance, and I'm here today via Zoom with Tony Lechner, award-winning, multi-talented, and multi-genre recording artist, composer, band leader, film scorer, and director of multiple community choirs. Nice to have you here today, Tony.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
Yeah, I hope you and your family are having happy holidays.
We are. Thanks. Yeah.
Good. Good. So, Tony, your career in music is rich and full of many diverse projects. You grew up in the Boston area and then moved out to Western Mass to go to UMass, and you're still living out here. And before you became an acclaimed songwriter, you fronted a number of bands earlier in your career. And I believe that the first band that you made any major inroads with was with the band Wildwood, and you recorded an album, Wildwood Flower. I'm sorry, Wildwood Lullaby, and released that in 2008. Just kind of a folk album with some jazz and bluegrass influences, and your wife Sarah played violin on it.
hmm
And the title track on that is the song Wildflower Lullaby. And I think that's a really beautiful song.
Oh, thanks.
Can you tell our listeners a little about Wildwood and Wildflower Lullaby?
Sure. That was kind of a group of friends coming together. We had been, a few friends of mine and I had played in bands for years, even since high school, all the way back to high school when we started as a cover band, and then working our way up into progressive rock bands, which we loved. And finally we thought, let's do something with acoustic bluegrass folk combination, kind of Nickel Creek inspired. We loved the sounds and the harmonies, but with our own twist on it. So we got together and just started writing and playing songs and playing around the valley, and developed a small loyal following around the valley. I think we were one of the first bands ever to play Mocha Mayas in Shelburne Falls. I think we might have been the first band they had there,
Wow.
like one of the inaugural concerts when they started. So they still have our picture up on the wall. So we go in there and feel like real rock stars, or I should say folk stars, I guess. But we had a really good time bringing that music out, writing original songs and playing around the valley. And we put that album together. And we're even had I had some of my former students took turns singing as the lead singer for the band, two different ones at two different times.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think we even had all three of them on the same night. Two of my former students and the other singer, all three female singers, which was real fun. One of our shows. I can't even remember where. We might have been in the Montague Book Mill, actually. But yep. And then life, took its turns, and some people were having families and moving for different jobs, and we eventually had to kind of go our separate ways.
So the song, in particular, Wildflower Lullaby, is
Oh, right.
like you can tell us?
That was inspired by a certain meadow, one of the apartments my wife and I were renting at the time. There was a walk we did on this small kind of deserted road with a stone wall and just wildflowers everywhere. We would walk there every day with our dog, and that meadow was actually the inspiration for the song. I remember I can picture it while I was writing the lyrics, and the song just it was one of those songs that just came out kind of done when it did, which is always what we love as songwriters, right? Because there's sometimes it's a labor and it takes forever, and you're reworking, and sometimes it just pours right out and it's done. So that one kind of wrote itself. I'm always sometimes surprised when they come out like that. It's like, wow, that song was done before I even started writing it.
Oh, great, great. So, you mentioned just a second ago about some of your students, singing vocals
hmm
with you, and so what were you teaching?
I spent 14 years teaching music at the Pioneer Valley Performing Arts Charter High School.
Oh,
I was started the first year the school came into existence. and I taught there through 2010. So in that time, I've had a chance to really just, I mean, I'm a music educator, I think, by trade, even though I never intended to be in my life. I ended up being a music educator and still am, really. But I love it. I love teaching music and just working with people any age. But I taught middle school and high school there, and had worked with so many great kids that are now out in the world, adults applying their craft amazingly. And I can look back and say, wow, I feel lucky and honored that I got to work with some of them when they were young.
Yeah, I bet that feels great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after Wildwood, you formed, or I guess just as you were, you had a little overlap, you formed the Rosewood Project. And I believe you had Western Mass favorite Miro Sprague as part of that project.
Yes.
And you released the album Under the Midnight Stars in 2009, and several of the songs on that album, Mocha Maya, Partiste, and Midnight Stars, which many of our listeners may have just heard, went on to win a number of major songwriting awards, including two John Lennon songwriting contests, as well as Billboard Star Maker World Song Contest. And the song Partiste was actually used in the film Dinner for Schmucks, which is one of my favorites. That's with Steve Carell, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. And so, yeah, you must be really proud of all that recognition of your songwriting talents.
I am. Yeah. I think it's, I can't ever speak for all songwriters, but I feel like this is probably true, that if you write music, you're often writing for yourself, just for the sheer love of it and the joy of it. But that doesn't mean that doesn't feel good when you can get recognized by something important. That feels good too. Like I wrote the song and I thought, this is a good song. I love this song. I feel really good about this song. But to have someone else comment on it and say that, from a point of authority, it's like a nice little feather in the cap. So yeah, I'm very happy about that stuff. Although I have to say, when we went to see Dinner for Schmucks, my wife and I went to see it, and we were listening very intently, the whole movie, for the song, because my song's in a movie. You almost want to tell everyone on the way in, like, hey, my song's in this movie.
Right.
I didn't, of course, but I'm thinking that we listened to the whole movie and we barely could hear it during this one dinner scene as background music. I'm like, isn't that perfect? Even in the movies, jazz is the background music people talk over while they eat. But it was there. It was quiet. But just to know it was chosen and put in there, it was pretty good. And to see my name in the credits right under Lennon and McCartney was pretty awesome. It was like the two first songs. First was Lennon and McCartney. The next one was me. And it was like, oh, I could just die happy right now.
So the song Mocha Maya, which is kind of gypsy jazz tune, that was the winner of the 2010 John Lennon Songwriting Contest in the jazz category, and also won the 2011 Billboard World Song Contest in the instrumental category. And that one, as we talked about, it's named after the popular cafe Mocha Maya in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts.
That's right.
Along the Mohawk Trail. And can you tell us how that song came about and why you named it after the cafe?
Yeah, we also played that band in Wildwood because some of these songs, there was a little bit of overlap, like you said. I was the chief songwriter for Wildwood for years. We were writing and playing songs at Mocha Maya Cafe, and that was one of the songs we played there. And I obviously named it after the cafe because we played there a lot. And it just, sometimes when you write an instrumental song, the title is apparent, but other times you need to find a title. And it just felt right because I could feel us playing it there. And then when it came time to do the Rosewood album, I thought, this song would be great with the Rosewood, because in Wildwood we did it different. It was a fiddle playing the melody, so it was a little more. I don't know how maybe a little more bluegrass. And with the Rosewood project, it definitely became gypsy jazz. And I remember we were in the studio. So that's Ross Bellenois on guitar, who's another local hero. He grew up in Chicopee, and now he's a just outstanding studio musician and songwriter in Philadelphia. He was on the guitar on that and just cruising through it. And we were at Signature Sounds studio, and Mark Thayer was recording. And I remember him saying to the drummer, like, "Oh, you need to play a different kind of kit for this here." And he got out a suitcase, the bass drum, and had him play. I don't know what it was. He was playing for the snare. It was maybe a lunchbox or something, but it wasn't a real kit. It was more of a old time do-it-yourself kit that would have been used back in the day for stuff like that. So we tried to. Mark was helping us make it as authentic as possible for it. So I think he even loaned Ross maybe a hollow body guitar to use on the leads.
Oh, well, it certainly came out great.
So, yeah,
not great. Well, this is Mark Sherry, and I'm here with recording artist Tony Lechner. And Tony, your I guess recent project, although it's not so recent, it's been going on for a while now. Rock Voices, which is a somewhat unusual take on community choirs, is a project whose success has probably gone far beyond what you had originally envisioned.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me how the idea for this came about and how it's grown?
Oh yeah, sure. It was 2009. I started the Valley Jazz Choir, which was an adult choir to sing all my arrangements of jazz songs, and that was great and was like very rewarding for me and the people that did it. And it was just great fun. And I was still teaching at the time, and my wife and I one night thought, like, what would it be like if we did this for rock instead, or in addition? Let's try it. And we said, let's do this. We started the idea for the rock choir, and we looked up and saw that they were doing one like it in England. We thought, okay, if it's working in England, it should work here. So in 2012, we started the Valley Rock Choir, which turned into what we now call Rock Voices. And I just put an ad in the paper, and people showed up. And before you knew it, within 3 years, we were at, a couple hundred people and spreading around New England. So now here it is 8 years later, and we have, I think, 10 or 11 choirs scattered around New England, and even one in Portland, Oregon. We have, I don't even know how many members. With the pandemic, we've lost some membership, and we're all virtual and online right now, but because it's harder, to participate with technology. But we're still keeping it in there. But the premise is it's a choir for everyone. It's the music most people grow up with is rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And it's a chance for people to sing with no judgment, no auditions. You don't even have to read music. They all come together. We learn rock songs. We do concerts with a real band. And it's kind of a bucket list item for a lot of people. And I just didn't realize. I had no idea when I started how much people needed this. And that's what's blown me away. So we've been able to do a lot of charity work with the concerts and raise money for charities all over the place. And to just get people performing and singing, which some of them thought they'd never do again in their life or ever.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I know several people who were, involved in the choirs, and they all love it. And so you're absolutely right. It certainly fulfills a need out there. And so I certainly applaud you for doing this. And how many of those choirs do you actually manage?
I run the local one here in the heart of the valley. It's 2 nights, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays in Hadley, and the Thursday night group is Tuesdays in Northampton and Thursdays are in Hadley. But it's really one big choir of about 200 people on a, give or take every season. So for the rest of the choirs, we have different directors who run them in the different cities.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And people, if people want to see what it looks like online, if they go to our YouTube page or even our just rockvoices.com, there's links, and they can see what we've been doing virtually to see how we've been keeping the music alive while we've been in lockdown. We have 2 virtual choir videos that are up on YouTube and through our website. One is Lean on Me, when Bill Withers passed away back in, I think it was in April, maybe. Right. We did Lean on Me in May, and we have this fantastic virtual choir video. And then we did Shed a Little Light by James Taylor, which we just released. And so it's just about in time for Martin Luther King Day, because that one's a tribute to MLK.
Hmm. So you've also done a lot of work in writing the scores for films. And what do you feel has been, your most exciting film project?
Well, I wouldn't say a lot of films, unless
Well,
it's
small.
not like live action feature films, more like small and mostly animated. A lot of my work is through Fablevision, which is a Boston-based animation company that does a lot of educational projects.
Uh-huh.
So I think well, I can't even remember when, maybe around 2000, back in 2000, I started doing score work for them for small projects, and then occasionally for audio book projects or animated versions of their books. Peter Reynolds and Paul Reynolds are the founders, and Peter Reynolds is a beloved storybook children's author. People might know his illustrations from the Judy Moody books. He did all those illustrations, but he writes a lot of books and he turns them into little films, and I'm on some of those as the composer. For one of them, my favorite one, or my most exciting one, I would say, would be called The North Star, which was one of his storybooks he turned into a video, and he had the audio narration was by Tim Curry, the
Oh,
amazing
wow.
Tim Curry voice. So I'm on a project with Tim Curry. I never got to meet him or see him because it was all, even 15 years ago, it was all remote. But he's the narrator, and I composed the score, and I actually got Miro Sprague to play the piano on that as well. So whenever I have a chance to work with Miro, I would take it, because he's such a pleasure to work with. And that score is like a 15-minute through composed musical freestyle soundtrack piece featuring Miro on piano, all custom written for him to play through. So it was it was fun to write, it was fun to record, and it's fun to see my name on the same project with Tim Curry, even though he just still doesn't know who I am.
So what have you been up to during the pandemic? I guess one thing I saw is that you released a kind of a fun, COVID-related parody of the 19 by Steely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the pandemic has a lot of downsides, and we can't wait for it to be over. But I will say, it's given me some time to think outside of my full-time job of running the Rock Voices, and it was fun to do that parody video of Hey 19, and I did another one at Halloween. I don't know if you saw, of one of my alter egos, which is Darth Brooks. It's Darth Vader with a cowboy hat singing "Friends in Low Places." It's on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to see it. Tony Lechner. I don't know. You can find me somehow, but just look up "Friends in Low Places" by Darth Brooks, and it's I get my family involved and we have a good time. And I would love to do more of those. If we have a little more time, I will. And I'm still chipping away at a couple original songs this year, some new stuff.
Oh, great. Well, we look forward to that. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with us. And
You're welcome.
I'm sure we'll be seeing lots more great music from you in the near future.
Oh, I hope so. Don't jinx me. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Tony, thanks so much.
All right.
This was Tony Lechner, great songwriter and composer. And this is Mark Sherry of the New Music Alliance signing off.